I'm Councillor Andrew Davenport, Mayor of Whitehorse, and I welcome you all to tonight's special committee meeting. I formally open this special committee meeting and ask for you all to stand for the opening prayer and statement. We give thanks, O God, for the men and women of the past whose generous devotion to the common good has been the making of our city. Grant that our own generation may build worthily on the foundations they have laid. Direct our minds that all we plan and determine is for the well-being of our city. Amen. In the spirit of reconciliation, we acknowledge the Wurundjeri as the traditional custodians of the land we are meeting on. We pay our respects to their elders, past and present. Please be seated. Councillors, officers and members of the public, please note that our meetings are now audio recorded and uploaded to our Council's website for the purpose of providing greater access to Council debate and decision making and encouraging openness and transparency. Please note that any statements made by individual persons during a meeting are not the opinions or statements of Whitehorse City Council, and therefore Council accepts no responsibility. I would like to now introduce our councillors and senior officers here this evening. Councillors on my left, Councillor Raylene Carr.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Bill Bennett.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Councillor Blair Barker.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Councillor Tina Liu.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Councillor Sharon Ellis.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see a packed gallery.
Councillors on my right, Councillor Ben Stennett.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome.
Councillor Prue Cutts.
Yes, good evening, everyone, and welcome.
Councillor Denise Massoud.
Good evening and welcome. Thank you for coming.
Councillor Andrew Munro.
Good evening, all, and welcome.
Staff on my left, Chief Executive Officer Ms Darlene Duff.
Good evening.
General Manager Infrastructure Mr Philip Warner.
Good evening.
General Manager Corporate Services Mr Peter Smith. Staff on my right, Executive Manager Governance and Customer Service Mr Tony DeFazio.
Good evening, everyone.
Team Leader Governance Ms Jenny Russell.
Good evening.
General Manager City Development Mr Jeff Green.
Good evening.
General Manager Human Services Ms Terry Wilkinson.
Good evening.
And in the gallery, Manager of Communications Ms Sally Freud. And also Head of Finance Corporate Performance Mr Stuart McCann. Acting Management Accountant Ms Julia Blythe. So I'd now like to move on to item number 2, apologies. We've received from Councillor Munro a leave of absence for the special committee on the 9th of July 2018. I seek a mover that Councillor Munro's leave of absence for that special committee is accepted.
So moved.
Councillor Bennett moved, seconded.
Happy to second.
Councillor Massoud seconded. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item number 3, disclosure of conflicts of interest. Councillors and officers, are there any disclosures of conflicts of interest in regards to matters to be considered on tonight's agenda? If so, I will require councillors and officers to disclose that interest and nature of that interest. There being none, I'll go to item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Councillors, we have listed on the agenda the minutes of the previous meeting held on 14th of May 2018, requiring confirmation by the committee. Can I have a motion to confirm the minutes, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Councillor Cutts moved, a seconder.
Happy to second.
Councillor Ellis seconded. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item number 5. Public submissions. There are 2 categories tonight in 5.1 and 5.2, so I will start with 5.1, general submissions. Special committee provides the opportunity for anyone who is registered with the council administration to make a presentation before the special committee. Speakers will be given a maximum time of up to 3 minutes for their presentation, with a reminder at 30 seconds. The reminder sounds like this. And there will be no opportunity for interjection or debate on the issue. I will now invite the first registered speaker to come forward. And the first registered speaker is Mr. I. Bowden of Surrey Hills, speaking on the rubbish collection charge/fee. And on the front of your microphone, I think there's a green button. If you press that, thank you.
Good evening, mayors and councillors. My name is Ian Bowden. I'm a resident at Pennant Lane in Surrey Hills, and I'm speaking on behalf of the residents of the development of 8 Pennant Lane. My main thrust of the submission is the rate charge for rubbish collection. Part of our planning permit was that private collection must be as part of our occupation of the new development, and that's not a problem. But the council is charging as part of their rates to collect the rubbish or the waste, and we are expected, as per the planning permit, to collect privately, which is additional cost with no rebate from the council. When contacting the council, I was informed that it is part of the general rates, such as library, parks and other facilities the council provides. My argument is that we have, as residents, the option to access these facilities, which are paid for by the rates. The rubbish collection we are paying for and have no option to access that service, and in addition having to pay extra on top of that to have our bins collected. How the council will resolve this, I would say, would be a change in the planning permit to permit the bins to be collected. When initially approaching the council, when we moved into the residence, we asked what should we do with our waste. The council provided bins and were informed that the collection would be on the date as per the schedule provided by the council. We did this until we were informed by our body corporate that that wasn't appropriate, because we had, as part of our planning permit, to provide our own rubbish collection. The information we got from the council was incorrect, and my main contention is we're paying for the same service twice with no option to access. I have lived in other councils where the breakdown on the rates, the rubbish collection is listed separately and with an opt-in or opt-out service. I have no issue, and the residents have no issue in paying for rubbish collection. That's as it should be. That's not a problem. But to pay twice and be paying for a service you have no option to access seems to be manifestly unfair. So, and that is it in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. I will now move to Mr. G. Stone of Blackburn, speaking on open space Lundgren Reserve.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Graham Stone. I'm a resident of Blackburn and a member of the Whitehorse Active Transport Action Group, or WATAG for short. The Lundgren Chain Reserve is a popular park linked to some local streets by a linear reserve along the natural drainage line from near Middleborough Road almost to Gardeners Creek. The linear reserve contains McComas Grove Drain underground, and in more recent times a walking path was constructed along most of the drainage line, but not before some of the land was either earlier appropriated for private ownership or allowed to have private use. Recently, Mayor Davenport joined a group of local walkers walking along the Lundgren Chain Linear Reserve. We observed what needs to be done to complete this linear park through to Gardeners Creek Trail. You can see on the map on the handout the linear park stops at Cummings Street and then is on local streets to get to Gardeners Creek. In the Whitehorse Open Space Strategy 2007, it is important to note in section 4.1 that the community and council have identified completion of linear trail links to will be a priority issue to be addressed in this strategy. Potential sites are listed, leading to the recommendation for Council to investigate opportunities to extend the off-road path connection from Lundgren Chain Reserve through to Gardeners Creek. The completion of the linear reserve will most probably also form part of the City of Whitehorse's easy ride routes in the bicycle strategy. Also, perhaps more importantly, local residents will be encouraged to take up more walking with the appeal of the easy access to the Gardeners Creek Trail. Mr Dan Green, a livability planner at Melbourne Water, is very supportive of this project, has advised that Melbourne Water has access rights under the Water Act for the drain works, therefore limiting private rights over the full length of the drain. The Lundgren Chain Reserve was named in honour of Councillor Ozzie Lundgren, Mayor of Box Hill for 2 terms from 1951 to 1975. We believe that in the spirit of Councillor Lundgren's contribution to the community, the linear reserve should be completed. We therefore ask that Council enact the recommendation in the open space strategy to extend the off-road path connection through to Gardeners Creek. If a land transfer is required to rectify any past transfers out of public ownership, Council's Open Space Reserve Fund could be an appropriate source of funds so that additional budget expenditure will not be required. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now move to Miss M. Silver, Burwood, speaking on Open Space Lundgren Reserve.
Switch it off. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Marie Silver of 12 Cypress Avenue, Burwood. I'm a keen local walker and often walk the Lundgren chain with my husband early in the morning for exercise. This trail is an extension of the system of parks which begins locally at Malvina Street. We enjoy the linear reserve as far as it goes, but have often wondered why it doesn't go through to join the Gardeners Creek Trail. As you can see in the photos which I've given you as a handout, when we reach the Cumming Street, a sign signals the end of the Lundgren Trail, which has greenery growing on both sides of the paths. We are disappointed that we need to leave this quiet, secluded haven and head out onto the local streets to reach the Gardeners Creek Trail. We always wonder why the trail has concluded at Cumming Street when it seems it should be continued on as a walk where we can keep breathing in and enjoying fresh air and nature like we do along all the trails to the Malvina Street top end. In the other photo, you can see what should be the trail exit to Synot Street and the Gardeners Creek Reserve. This appears to still be council land. Looking on the internet, I saw a review of the Lundgren Chain Reserve, and one helpful citizen has posted many photos of the Lundgren Chain Reserve playground, followed by other attractions in the area. He shows many photos of the Skyline Park and the Gardeners Creek Reserve. It implies these recreational areas are linked. What he doesn't show is the roads one has to traverse to get to the next park. He does refer to a car parking area in Finch Street and how you can park on Finch Street and walk through a tree-lined alley that has a trail. It would be nice and it would be of community benefit to be able to apply a similar description to the bottom end of the Lundgren Chain Reserve through to the Gardeners Creek Trail. I hope in time that Council will be able to complete this linear reserve for the benefit of existing walkers and also to entice more residents to enjoy exercising along a continuous, attractive, leafy walk. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. I will now call on Mr. P. Carter of Box Hill North, speaking on safe crossing for cyclists, intersection of Elgar Road near Burwood Highway, Burwood.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Peter Carter's my name. I'm seeking an improvement for pedestrians and cyclists crossing Burwood Highway. Basically, there are two major bike trails that converge at the intersection of Elgar Road and Burwood Highway. One is the Vic Road's Gardeners Creek Trail, the other is Council's easy ride route. So both parties have an interest in achieving a safe crossing for that particular road. But it reflects, that particular intersection represents a significant barrier to a large number of cyclists. And they're the sort of cyclists that we're interested to try and get cycling more often, more frequently. What's called the interested but concerned cyclists. Why is it a barrier to cyclists? Fundamentally, because the islands that you have to stand on and wait for the traffic lights are too small to safely stand on. The real risk of falling off them and knocked off them. And secondly, there's a poor level of service provided by the traffic signals. It may take 2 to 3 cycles to get across. Beyond next 2 or 3 pages, you'll see some local residents and even a couple of eminent citizens trying to get across that crossing. Now, what's Vic Roads proposing to do there? Well, they had meetings last year, and despite requests to look at Holland Road as an alternative, what Vic Roads are proposing to do is to put bicycle lanterns on the crosswalks at Elgin and Burwood Highway, a zebra crossing and a couple other treatments, none of which will address the fundamental issue of the islands being too small. So, does it do anything for cyclists? It may remove a barrier? It doesn't. What I'm seeking, I've had discussions, I'm seeking that the pedestrian signals be provided at the existing signal crossing at Holland Avenue and Burwood Highway. I've had discussions late last week with Vic Roads officers. They're favourably disposed towards that particular solution. I've also had discussions with the City of Whitehorse officers as well. So the essence of it, this particular crossing at Holland Road will provide a safer crossing and a better connectivity for the residents of Box Hill. Just to finish up, I think we're at a stage to say that the opportunity is there for maybe senior members of the council to converse with Adrian McGann at Vic Roads, the director, and try and get a resolution on that and follow up with a formal request for that signals to be upgraded at Holland Avenue. Thank you very much for your listening. Thank you.
Thank you. I will now go on to item number 5.2, 2018-19 budget consultation. So the Special Committee provides the opportunity in accordance with Section 223 of the Local Government Act for anyone who has prepared a written submission in regards to the 2018-19 Council budget and has requested to make a presentation in regard of that submission to be heard by the Special Committee. Presenters will be given up to 5 minutes for their presentation with a reminder at 30 seconds, and there will be no opportunity for further discussion or debate on their submission. I will now invite the first registered speaker, Mr. Kay Weeks, to speak to his submission to the budget.
I don't think I need to introduce myself. I've been doing this for 15 years to try and get you to fix the ponds at the Blackburn Miniature Railway. The big problem here is that your council officers can't appreciate environmental aesthetics. Neither do they appreciate the importance of those ponds as the central feature of that railway. The railway was designed around those things. And I don't know how I'm going to fix this. Perhaps I ought to get Trump out here, see what he can do. Why do you ignore the landscape architect's plan that was prepared in 2008? Still haven't done anything. You're not going to do anything, are you? Why don't you admit it? Words really fail me on this issue. 15 years. And I'm not going to do anything here in 5 minutes. This is just window dressing. So we'll go on to the second topic. You wrecked the dance school at Forest Hill. You put the fees up so high that it wasn't an economical proposition for the chap that was teaching them. Here again, you're out of touch. You don't know what this means to people. And no one's come down to see for themselves either. At least some people came down to the railway. No one's been to the dance school. There are 1.98 million people out there who know me through dancing. That's more than 10 times the total population of Whitehorse. Tonight someone knew me. The other day at the supermarket, the checkout girl knew me. It's another world that you've got nothing about, but why deny us this? It's nice and central there. It links up with the chase. There's a social aspect. People go down to the chase after class. And it's great exercise. It's far better and much more fun than a gym. You could have fixed it. It was quite easy. Jack up your fees, but give them an annual grant to compensate. But no, that was too hard, wasn't it? I don't know. Anyhow, I'm not going to be around much longer. I'm 87 now. I hope to get to 92. And then it'll be all over for a lot of us, won't it? But anyhow, I'm most disappointed with council and your performance from year after year after year. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your submission. I will now call on Mr. G. Wathren, Walker Park Redevelopment, to make a presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, everybody. My name's Gary Wathen, and I'm one of the members of the Walker Park Working Group that's looking at the redevelopment of the facilities at Walker Park. We've been working on this for almost 12 months now, and we had 3 plans that were given to us by the council, working very closely over the last 12 months with the Whitehorse Working Group and our working group. Plan 1 was to refurbish the pavilion only, which was discarded outright in that group because it quite obviously did not meet the growing needs of the club, and it was so much of a stopgap measure. Plan 2 was what the club was seeking, which was a new 2-storey building, which most new facilities are these days, that would have met all our brief needs. We were told by the council on the time that it was put to the table that that's rather expensive at 4.7 million, and council would not support that, so that went off the table straight away. Plan 3 was, I guess, the compromise, the refurb of the pavilion and a small but modest wing out to the side of 115 square metres, which was finally an indoor viewing area that supporters, mums and dads could use. However, this was, to our knowledge, supported by the Whitehorse Working Group, by the Walker Park Working Group, and by our 2 ward councillors. But to our grief, when it came back from your budget meeting, it went back to Plan 1. Plan 1, very, very clearly, does nothing for our future. We're a burgeoning club. We've just ticked over 1,000 players, 650 of those are juniors, and that's where the entire growth is coming from. We all know about the introduction of girls into football. We had no girls 3 years ago. We've got over 120 now and growing. There's no future for them if we're going to keep them in the same 4 walls It's a bit like a family with 2 children and 2 bedrooms. It's okay for a while, but when the family gets to 20 children and you just want to refurb the 2-bedroom house, it ain't going to work. All we're suggesting there was a small indoor viewing area. This specifically was for a meeting area, for mums and dads to pick up their children from training and to view the ground. Also for people that quite often now don't come. I put this on your table. This is Mary. I took this picture of her 2 weeks ago at Walker Park. She's a disabled person in a wheelchair, and she parked herself right in front of the access way from Dunlaven Road. Cars were just not whizzing past, but going very, very close to her. This club's been going for 130 years, and we've been out in the cold for that length of time. People like Mary, people like our volunteers, deserve to have some basic shelter. Funding, always an issue. We're a battling club, always have been, probably more in the red than in the black, but not too much, but we've been living for 130 years. We work hard to get by and pay our bills. We don't work to make a surplus. Some clubs have the benefit of good, wealthy benefactors. That's when you see some big contributions going into projects, and inevitably their name is on the pavilion somewhere. We have not got anyone like that, and I would hope that in your consideration that did not go against us. Funding is almost there. We've secured $400,000 from Michael Suker. There will be money coming from the state government, whether it be Liberal, whether it be Labor. We're about to get a result from the AFL Victoria in a matter of 1 or 2 weeks for funding. We're not that far away. It's not impossible. We don't want the boat to go, because this is our last chance. As Michael Suker said, make sure that this is planned for the future, because you ain't getting any more money from us. So I plead with the council to look at Plan 3B. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I now call on Ms Kay Orpin on behalf of Mr R Brown, Brentford Square Traders Association.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, councillors, for this opportunity to present to you, and apologies from our President Rowan. I've drawn the short straw and I'll do the best I can. I have no notes. But obviously we're actually speaking in support of your budget item 2017-393, and this is an opportunity for us to say to you firsthand how desperately needed this work, remedial work is for the car park. I would hope that you have received the photographs that we've distributed that should be, and you only need to look at them to know that there comes a point where the pavement continues to fail and that patching no longer works. The council has to be on notice that this is a tripping hazard. It is a safety issue for the residents and the people who frequent that shopping centre. The catchment area for Brentford Square is 15,000 plus. And it is becoming quite an issue. I think the light's been shone a little bit on it more with the recent refurbishment of the total refurbishment of the Woolworths car park, which has put a bit of a spotlight on the tripping hazards in Brentford Square Shopping Centre. The demographics there, as you would know through your own data, are predominantly people of senior years, and we are getting more and more young families into the area, so it's revitalising itself. Unfortunately, we just lost our big anchor, which was the Commonwealth Bank, and we're hopeful that there'll be some sort of community bank in the future. But we do ask you to support that particular budget item 393. As I said, there comes a point when it can't be patched anymore, and it is becoming a danger to the public and to you as the custodians of that facility. Just in closing, we would also like to thank Councillors Carr and Bennett for listening to us and to going forward and bringing forward our position to the relevant director, and I'm not sure who that is, but we'd like to give a call out also to Will Gerhard, who has been a great ambassador for Whitehorse Council in our dealings with him. So good luck with your deliberations. In over 20 years of local government, I've never actually sat on this side, and it's not too bad. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I now call on Ms E. Hopper on behalf of Mr M. Hassett, Treasurer of Metro East Bicycle User Group Inc.
Good evening, Mayor and councillors. My name is Elaine Hopper and I'm representing a group called Metro East Bicycle Users Group with interests beyond Whitehorse, but our membership is mainly in Whitehorse ratepayers, and our location for our organisation is in Whitehorse. We strongly want to state that we support the council documents which are available to you, which we've cited in regard to your attitude to cycling. Council, in many of its documents, reiterates the point that cycling is good for individuals, for their health, for their well-being, for efficient and quick transport, sustainability, cheap way to get to a station, a shopping centre, a school, that sort of thing. And also in all your documents, you point out the benefits to the whole community if some people are cycling, because it aids in alleviating traffic congestion and parking issues. In particular, you have a cycling strategy, however, which looks at the ways that council might bring more people into cycling. It has specific targets, such as increasing the number of women who are cycling, increasing the number of short trips threefold from a baseline of what was in the 2016 strategy. It has identified a target group who might be induced to cycle, and those people are called the interested but concerned people. They're concerned about safety. And it has then gone on to ask those very people what would make them cycle. There's about 60% of the community, so I'm just looking around the room here, of about 40 people, there's possibly 24 people in this room who could say, yeah, I might cycle, but I'm a bit scared out on those roads with those car dooring incidents you hear about, and the trucks possibly whisking by my ear. And what I would like, and council knows this because it is reported in its cycling strategy, that these people say they want paths. They want separated paths. And the same sort of thing comes out of the City of Melbourne a week ago, was reported in the paper. This is what the interested and concerned people want if they're going to cycle. So then we go to the budget and we find that there's $200,000 allotted in the budget, not a huge amount, considering the number of residents. 132,000 of that is going to traffic management devices at crossings, and 65,000 is going to bike racks, signage on signs and markings on roads. And we'd just like to point out that we don't see that this aligns with the budget, with the strategy which the council is putting forward as the way forward. What we are saying to council is that we'd like to see an increase in the budget directed specifically to the cycling paths that will bring on this increase in cycling. We're saying we would like at least 200,000 for such paths to be added into the budget, and we have suggested to you ways whereby this could be found. We've also suggested places where cycle paths could be made, and we're very happy to respond to any initiatives that council makes this year for cycling paths in this community. We feel that council needs to endorse its its own goals, endorse its own strategy, endorse its own methods. These are council documents. This is ratepayers' money, and I think that ratepayers would expect that there would be an alignment between these documents, and that alignment comes through putting in more cycling paths so that you get an increase in the number of cyclists, the number of short trips, exactly what is aimed for in the cycling strategy. So I thank you for listening, and I hope that you take those comments to your deliberations. Thank you.
Thank you. I now call on Mr. B. Devarzen on behalf of Ms. T. Tesher, Whitehorse Ratepayers and Residents Association.
Good evening. Our research has shown that of all budget submissions made by the public over the past 20 years, Council has, to its greatest degree, ignored submissions which have been made, and brings to mind the phrase fake consultation. The phrase lack of transparency applies to the 2018-19 proposed budget, as it is virtually impossible to make an adequate appraisal of it without a detailed schedule of operating expenditure. This has been requested from Council without any success, resulting in a Freedom of Information request as yet unanswered. Of the expenses proposed or highlighted in the budget, or by a councillor, we provide the following points with relevant comment. Point 1, the Whitehorse Centre. We believe that the $3 million in the proposed budget for a new Whitehorse Centre should be deferred and instead used for a contribution to an expansion of the recycling industry in association with contributions from other councils. We also believe the establishment of biogas plants would utilise food waste, etc., and produce low-cost energy for council offset. Our statistical analysis of the surveys used to justify the proposed new Whitehorse Centre has led us to believe that the results have been misrepresented. We therefore believe that given challenging waste disposal issues in the immediate future, the total redevelopment of the Whitehorse Centre needs to be re-examined and further action on it be put on hold, given the total projected expenditures, including the car park at the current time, are around $80 million. When only 1.8% of residents in Whitehorse use the centre, as stated in the draft Whitehorse Feasibility Study 2011, this new Whitehorse Centre is a huge waste of ratepayers' money being spent to replace what is only a 30-odd-year-old building, which can be refurbished at a fraction of the cost. Point 2, digital transformation technology. The proposed expenditure of $2.66 million on digital transformation is ridiculous in the extreme. It would appear that the total cost of this exercise could be in the order of $7 million. This is basically a revamp of Council's website with some expenditure on social media. In comparison, Glen Ira Council has just budgeted $700,000 for its website revamp as a one-off cost. Setting up Facebook pages has no costs, and even with council input into the social media, this should not be a major cost. it would appear that this whole exercise has not been properly thought through and has resulted in a massive waste of ratepayers' money. Point 3, possible waste management charge. The proposed $320,000 mentioned in relation to preparation of a possible waste management charge is also an outrageous waste of ratepayers' money, given all that would be required to determine who was not utilising the council waste collection service could be achieved by either telephoning the body corporates in the municipality or checking planning records. If council decided not to go ahead with this possible charge, this money would have already been spent with zero return for ratepayers. Point 4, footpaths and roads. We question the adequacy and allocation of monies proposed to be spent on footpaths and roads, given there have been injuries incurred by residents on unsafe footpaths and road crossings, whilst perfectly good footpaths have been replaced or resurfaced.
Thank you for your submission.
There is also many issues with roads.
Thank you for your submission. Now move on to item number 6 of the agenda, reports from officers. Item 6.1.1, 2018-19 budget consultation. Seek a mover.
Happy to move, Mayor.
Moved by Councillor Masood. I seek a seconder.
Happy to second.
Councillor Ellis. Councillor Masood.
Mayor, before I begin, could I make a suggestion that perhaps point 1 suggests that we are going to hear those who wish to speak? I think we could probably delete that. We have heard them speak to the meeting, and we could just go with point 2 in the recommendation.
So I take it as this is, you are moving the recommendation with an amendment.
Yes, I am.
And that amendment is to delete point 1. And I'll ask Councillor Ellis, do you agree to that
Yes,
amendment?
yes.
Okay.
Happy to support
Moving speech, please. Councillor Masood.
Thank you, Mayor. I think the process of budget consultation is extremely important, and I know that we value very much the community who make submissions. And for those that have come to us tonight at this meeting to also speak to their submissions, I feel that is extremely valuable. The interest that the community have and the feedback is always very worthwhile, and it does help us to reflect whether or not we've tried to cover, I suppose, many of the things we believe the community wants. And it has been quite a process, but really this is about hearing the community and receiving their feedback for the consultation. And I don't think I've got much more to add, but I do thank all of those who have made the effort to contribute. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Ellis.
Yes, I totally agree with Councillor Masood. We do need the feedback from our community. We want to hear what's important to them and the issues that really contribute to their lives. We have a hard decision to make as councillors because we've got 160,000 residents and all these buildings, all these sporting facilities, services, etc. And we have limited funds in which to distribute across all of those. But we need to know what's important to our community. It doesn't mean we can always deliver what an individual may want. We do the best we can to deliver for the whole of the community. But it's important for us to listen to what the community's got to say. And I think for people to take their time to fill out a submission and to tell us how they feel is a vital part of how we operate as a council. And for them to come tonight in this cold weather to support their submissions and to speak to us and let us know what's important to them, We need to hear that. And that allows us to make some final decisions on what we do support in the budget. So I thank all of the submitters that we've received this year, the submissions we've received, and I do thank the 6 speakers tonight, 5 speakers tonight that have come to personally submit to us and speak with us. Thank you very much, because it's without your input, we wouldn't know what the community wants, and it's important that you just keep letting us know. Thank you.
Are there any speakers against the motion? Any speakers in favour of the motion?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Stennett.
Just like to support Councillor Ellis in what she was saying about the population of Whitehorse. In fact, you might be interested to know that the new information from the ABS has been released, and Whitehorse's new estimation residential population figure is 173,514, up from 170,093 in the 2016 at the time of the census. And that further goes towards what Councillor Ellis was saying. We do have quite a number of residents that we need to represent.
Any speakers against the motion? Any speakers in favour of the motion? There being no further speakers and no speakers against, there's no right of reply. I put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Item number 7. Councillors, in accordance with our council procedure in regards to raising matters of other business, are there any proposed written motions for consideration? There being none, I'll move to item number 8. Public comment. Special committee allows for the opportunities for members of the gallery to make comment only in regard to matters raised by councillors under item 7, other business, and item 6, officer reports. However, this evening the officer reports relate to the submissions made, so there's no ability to make public comment on item number 6, officer reports. As there has been no matters raised by councillors under item 7, other business, there's no ability to make public comment this evening. I'll move on to item number 9, confidential reports. There are none tonight, so I'll move to item number 10, close of meeting. Closing the meeting, I thank you all for your attendance and contribution, especially the submitters in the budget consultation process, because it does weigh on our considerations, and have a good evening.